Hey everyone, welcome back to another Bullet Train Devlog. This week we've got quite a few new things to talk about. I was working primarily on trinkets, so orbs that can be applied to the whole train, but also took a look at the gameplay areas again and adjusted a few enemies as well. I then also started to take a look at more train engines and train cards. But let's start with the trinkets. As with the weapons, I will not go over all of them individually, but of course we'll be giving a few examples and maybe you also see it later in gameplay footage as well. So this is the debug shop where I can test the trinkets. For example, efficiency: each empty orb slot grants plus 25% fire rate to all weapons, or blast power: expand the splash radius of weapons, or actually of everything, by 20%. There's another trinket that would let towers explode, that would as well be expanded then. Trinkets can for now be found multiple times. For some it doesn't make sense, for some it does, and I will also likely keep it for the ones where it actually makes sense. And maybe also a new thing that is visible is I finally updated the orbs to reflect different rarities for each orb. The next thing I was working on in a bit more detail are the areas, because before I only really had two different types. But as it would get very boring if the same area is played over and over again, I started diversifying that a bit. So now there can be areas that are more focused on enemies, some areas more focused on dodging, and some areas more focused on taking the correct path. Another thing I added are those special towers. With the new upgrade system I talked about last week, I feel like the amount of orbs you gain during fighting is a bit too low. So I added these special towers, which will actually drop a weapon orb on defeat. This dropped orb gets picked up by a new train storage when double-clicking the train engine. A new window opens with all the orbs that were collected during a run. This can also fill up, so it is good to always have at least a few slots empty. But these orbs are just free to take and can be used to either just use on your train or upgrade the orbs. Then as last thing, I started to take a look at the train yard again. There you should be able to get engines and train cards with different base abilities and slots. I started designing these cards a bit more in detail, but currently there is nothing I can show you there yet. So that was already everything that I did last week. Next week I plan on, of course, working more on these train cards in the base, so there can be a bit more variety when setting up the train. And then I will hopefully finally really take a look at the town and upgrading things in the town more, because I still neglected that a bit. Other than that, that was everything for this week. So as always, if there are any questions or feedback, feel free to leave them in the comments. I hope to see you again next week. Bye.